Hi, guys, and welcome to the Happy Wife School show. Very happy to be here and get into our topic today, which is why women feel entitled to get divorced. Very excited about the angle of this topic. I got an article sent to me about middle-aged women leaving their marriages due to menopause. And in the article, they even reference perimenopause. So that's an angle we're going to take today. That's going to be very interesting. Very excited to get into it. But before we do, as always, if you can let me know in the chat that you can hear me, see me, everything's coming through okay. A couple of announcements, as always, before getting started. Please go check out my colleague's YouTube channel, The Autoimmune Expert. Josie teaches people how to outgrow autoimmune diseases and chronic illnesses by resolving a dysregulated emotional state. So she has incredible videos, incredible courses for those people suffering from autoimmune, like fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue syndrome or Graves' disease or Hashimoto's, and also chronic illnesses like chronic pain, depression, anxiety, ADD, things of that nature. So please go check out The Autoimmune Expert and subscribe to her channel. Also, if you like to listen to the Happy Wife School show, the long format version of the Saturday shows and podcast format, go check out the Happy Wife School on Spotify or Apple Podcast, and please give it a review and a rating. That helps it reach more people. And then also it's still in the process. It's going to be a process, and I'll let you guys know a date as soon as I have a proposed date for the book. The first book that I am writing for married women and how to overcome and open back up to sex. So that is in the works, and excited about that. I'm going to go ahead and check the chat here. Make sure, yep, loud and clear. Awesome. Thank you so much, Phil. I appreciate that. Yeah. Oh, good. Luke, great to have you. Rabid Gator, Monica, Mike 88 GT, seeing some familiar names in here. Jojo, Mauricio, and Stephanie, thanks so much. Aloha. She's in Hawaii. And yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. Want to give a shout out to Phil as our moderator today. Steve's had another commitment, so he's not here today. So Phil's holding down the fort on his own. Thank you, Phil. And he will also be sending me questions at the end of the show, and I'll pick a couple to answer. So without further ado, getting into the topic, which is why women feel entitled to get divorced. And this topic was inspired because I got an email from someone who pointed me in the direction, again, of an article in the New York Post titled "Middle-Aged Women Are Leaving Marriages Due to Menopause." So I thought that would be a really good jumping off point to talk about why as women we feel so entitled to leave our marriages on a whim. I am going to get into this article a little bit and talking a little bit about menopause and perimenopause and how, as women living in Camp Victim, blaming things, others, circumstances for our experience, that menopause and perimenopause becomes another thing in life that we can point the finger at and blame for the experience we have of ourselves. So I'm going to get into that a little bit later. And then we're also going to get into 5 shady excuses married women use to get divorced. And what the theme of this whole topic and episode today is really entitlement. That as women, we feel entitled excuse me, as women, we feel entitled to leave on the whim of any slight disappointment or disillusionment in our marriages because we feel that our marriages are disposable. Women feel that their marriages are disposable. whereas good men are committed, take their vows seriously, have integrity to follow through and see the marriage through, even through the challenges or extremely poor and toxic behavior from their wives. As women, we feel no commitment, made no commitment to our vows, do not take them seriously, and see and treat our marriages as disposable. The reason for that, and the reason we feel so entitled to get a divorce, is that we don't marry for commitment. We marry because we're checking the box of the next thing that we thought would make us happy in our lives, or we're running away from life, that we want a path that's going to be predetermined and laid out for us so that we don't have to make any choices, can take our hands off the wheel and kind of have a predestined, predetermined life. And sure, we get married for the wrong reasons. When we get married to check the box or to run away from life, then there's no emotional investment into our marriage. Marriage becomes, what can I get out of it? What's in it for me? And we have no skin in the game. Because we have no skin in the game, because there's no emotional investment, we have back doors, a lot of back doors, and live on the fence, never being all in our marriage, never being committed. Back doors are the things that we hold on to as women to have one foot out the door and a reason and a way out of the relationship. We won't get too much into back doors. That could be an episode all on its own. But a couple examples, or a few examples of back doors we hold on to as women in our marriages to good men: having male friends, looking for male attention online, staying in touch and in relationship with ex-boyfriends, even hanging on to female friends in a huge social life. We hold on to things like past hurts that we feel our husband has done to us as a backdoor to leave, or problems that our husbands might have, or challenges they might have in their lives, like financial issues or even, drinking or other vices. And we use those as a backdoor to run once we want out and we no longer are getting anything out of the marriage, and it's not fulfilling our fantasy of what we thought it would be, and we're disappointed, or just we're done. Because again, the marriage is disposable. With our back doors and not having an emotional investment into our marriages, not taking our vows seriously, not being committed, we live in a perpetual fantasy that the grass is greener on the other side or somewhere else, that there's someone else or some other life that can make us happy and make us feel loved. Therefore, the marriage is disposable. So we often want to ask, but why? Why do we feel our marriages are so disposable? Why do we live with back doors? Why do we live on the fence? Why do we never make an emotional investment into the marriage? Why do we never take our vows seriously and realize that we're making a commitment and follow through and keep our word and have the integrity to take our vows seriously? Is that as women, we do not value ourselves. We have no self-value. And in that, feel that we are disposable. That's why one of the areas that we struggle the most to keep our word to is in our relationship with ourselves, because we have no emotional investment into who we are and doing our best in life, having character and integrity, And so as women, when we do not value ourselves, it is impossible for us to value anything else in our lives. One of the reasons that we don't value ourselves is because we put ourselves last. And I know some of you are thinking, but if you feel so entitled to leave your marriage on a whim and your marriage is disposable, then aren't you putting yourself and wants and needs first? But the answer is actually no. It's counterintuitive to us to realize that being selfish and self-centered and being entitled to leave a marriage on a whim or leave anything on a whim and not see something through we've made a commitment to, but we're talking about marriage. It's counterintuitive to us to see our selfishness and self-centeredness as women is not putting ourselves first. It is actually putting ourselves last. Putting ourselves first is making ourselves a priority to be our best in life, to consider ourselves and who we are and the kind of person that we are. So when we are selfish and self-centered and not considering anyone else or the consequences of our actions or who we're presenting ourselves to be or the character or person that we are, we put ourselves last. When we value ourselves, we outgrow our selfishness and see how that reflects poorly on who we are and our character and value ourselves enough to follow through and keep our word and our commitments. So I like to explain that because it can be a little counterintuitive. But when we put ourselves last as women, we run on empty. We live in camp victim. We are extremely selfish and self-centered. We feel burdened by the responsibilities of life. We're disconnected from ourselves, and we play the martyr, saying, look at all the things I do for everyone else. No one's taking care of me. And in that, there's no value in ourselves. So we can't value our marriages. We can't value the other commitments and relationships that we have. And our marriage and the other commitments that we have feel disposable because we're disposing ourselves, not valuing who we are and doing things to show up for ourselves and be the best we can be, which in turn, then everyone gets the benefit of that. So where I would like to go next is I want to come back to this article in the New York Post, which for the live stream of this, I did pen a comment at the top of the chat that links to the article if you want to check it out. And then once the live stream is over, I will put a link to the article in the description below. So menopause and perimenopause have become a big excuse and entitlement women use to leave their marriage. And I'm not going to read the whole article, but I want to read some interesting things from the article that tie into what we're going to talk about. So according to a survey by the Family Law Menopause Project and Newsom Health Research and Education, 7 in 10 women said that perimenopause or menopause is to blame for the downfall of their marriage. And then here's a quote from an OBGYN doctor. I hear it from patients every week. They might still love their husbands or partners, but they also hate them and no longer can put up with the things they've been putting up with. It's an interesting incongruency there with they love their husbands but hate them. And this is coming from a doctor. And our hormones give us this protection to accommodate other people. When those start shifting, there's a lot of built up resentment. Women have been busy taking care of everyone, and now they have to take care of themselves. Mandy Dixon, a therapist for women in midlife in the Dallas area, told USA Today. And this is a time when they may decide the relationship is just no longer worth it. And this is a really great quote. Women are gaining clarity in menopause and perimenopause. And that clarity tells them to leave if things aren't good. So it's other interesting things. There's an interesting story from a woman who chose to leave at menopause. And it's an interesting read. So this is just another excuse. It's just another circumstance that as women, in our own unhappiness in ourselves, living in camp victim, looking for something or someone to blame for our miserableness and unhappiness. There is no validity or truth that perimenopause or menopause gives us some kind of clarity to recognize the marriage is no longer good and it's okay to leave. That is the very thing of entitlement that I am talking about today, and it doesn't make sense. So if we talk about the symptoms of menopause or perimenopause, physically there's hot flashes, night sweats, dryness, sleep problems, joint and muscle pain, a disinterest in sex, weight gain. Emotionally, there's mood swings, difficulty concentrating, memory problems, etc. What we have to realize is that this is an experience. Menopause, perimenopause is an experience that all women have to a varying degree. And that we have gone through menopause and perimenopause as women since the beginning of time. It's just an experience we go through in our female bodies. And on one side, we're thinking, well, a divorce is going to solve this unhappiness and emotional experience I'm having in my marriage is to blame. And now that I'm going through menopause, I'm done. And then that all that is going to go away? Or if you get divorced and that's somehow making you happier through menopause, then that means the degree of our symptoms are in our control. That they're like a valve or a dial, better yet, a dial that we can turn up or down depending on what we are seeking and using menopause or perimenopause as an excuse in our own entitlement and poor behavior. So if a woman leaves her marriage and meets another man, where do the symptoms go? It shows the shadiness of using menopause as an excuse, not only during marriage, but also in this case as an excuse out of the marriage. It's another ticket out or backdoor out. I talked about backdoors we have. Unfortunately and sadly, perimenopause and menopause is a backdoor that women hold on to as an excuse and a reason to leave a marriage that is extremely shady and low character. Unfortunately, good men believe their wives' stories about perimenopause and menopause and how disruptive it is to their physical and emotional well-being. So the following is going to be a truth bomb moment. And I also hope a moment of excitement and possibility for the women who are open-minded and listen to my message and maybe of a perimenopausal age like myself, or going through menopause or a menopausal age, that I hope what I'm about to share with you ignites some possibilities of how we can experience ourselves differently through a natural physical transition that we have as women. So here's the truth bomb. Only unhappy women have a disruptive experience of menopause. Only unhappy women have a disruptive experience of menopause because they live in camp victim. When we live in camp victim, we want the experience of menopause to validate our unhappiness and our miserableness in our marriage and life. In camp victim, we're looking for someone or something outside of us to blame for our experience in life, whether that's physical or emotional. Because in camp victim, we are not in control of our emotional state until our emotions run rampant. And here's another truth bomb. It is our rampant emotional state that creates the extremity of the hormonal imbalance of perimenopause and menopause. I'm going to say that again because it's really important. It is our rampant emotional state as women that creates the extremity of the hormonal imbalance of menopause or perimenopause. We believe, and what we are taught, we believe it's our hormones that drive our emotional state. It is just the opposite. It is our emotional state that disrupts our hormonal state. We believe that it's our hormones that drive our emotional state. But it's just the opposite. It is our emotional state that disrupts our hormonal state. So what that means is the more out of control a woman is of her internal emotional state and lets her emotions run rampant, which can look overt. We all know that overt, highly emotional woman. But we also have the other end of the spectrum where a woman holds it all together and has a facade that she's happy and in control and not emotional. But we're just stuffing and suppressing our emotional state and wearing a facade. So what this means is that the more out of control we are internally of our emotional state and suppressing and pretending everything is okay, is not being in control. But the degree of which we are out of control of our emotional state is what drives our hormones, not the other way around. When we want it the other way around, that it's our hormones that drive our emotional state, that is us living in camp victim, wanting our emotional state and being emotional to be out of our control so we have an excuse. So women living in camp victim want perimenopause and menopause as an excuse. Because in camp victim, we look for things outside of us to blame for the experience we are having. So it sounds like menopause is happening to me. I'm not in control of my experience, which is very disempowering. So on the other side of the coin, in camp take responsibility, which means I'm in control of my experience. I want to be in control of my experience. I want to take responsibility for myself and my life. Happy women meaning women who are in control of their emotional state and living and can't take responsibility, do not have a physically and emotionally disruptive experience of menopause or perimenopause. Happy women living and can't take responsibility, who are in control of their emotional state, do not have a physically or emotionally disruptive experience of perimenopause or menopause. It doesn't mean they don't experience it or have symptoms of it, but it's on the lower degree of the symptoms, and they manage themselves and navigate it, being in control of their experience and not wanting it. They don't want it as an excuse. They're not looking for excuses in their life to be emotionally erratic or out of control or feeling poor me around their physical experience they might be having. And can't take responsibility. A woman does not want perimenopause or menopause to disrupt her experience of life. They enjoy their life and want the life and marriage they have. And can't take responsibility. Women know they are in control of their experience in life, and therefore know that they are in control of the experience they have of menopause. Yes, our bodies are going to go through changes. But how do I support myself and navigate it to keep my life going, not let it disrupt me or my life, and move through it and embrace it? Again, we're not looking for an excuse or something to blame. It's just two totally different lenses. So again, our emotional state determines the level of disruption of our hormones and perimenopause and menopause. But to me, that's so exciting and so empowering that it doesn't have to disrupt our lives, that we can actually be in control. And being a happy woman, having a healthy relationship with ourselves, being in control of our emotional state, we're stable and capable of regulating our emotional state, which is going to create a very mild experience of perimenopause or menopause. Again, to me, that's very exciting. So for the good men listening and the women listening, I hope you're hearing this and the possibilities in this. But for the good men, if your wife is complaining about perimenopause or menopause, or complains during her monthly cycle of that's the reason she gets so emotional, you have to recognize, no, it's that she's unhappy and has an erratic, unstable emotional state. She's emotionally dysregulated, which is what creates the disruption of her hormonal state during perimenopause and menopause, or during her period. That the level of discomfort and dysregulation is directly correlated to her internal emotional state. So don't be fooled. Don't be fooled because you don't have the experience, and so you can't know that she's fully capable. Even if she's having symptoms, she's fully capable of being in control of herself and showing up and being responsible, taking her vows seriously, and not using perimenopause or menopause as an excuse to be a bitch, or to be emotional, or to withdraw and push you away. Because if she's happy in herself and taking responsibility, then she will show up and not use it as an excuse. So you want to know that, so you're not pulled into the crazy making of what we use as an excuse with perimenopause and menopause. And for the men who are thinking, because I know you're out there too, well, no, but really, like, my wife changes during her period, or my wife she was good up until perimenopause or menopause, and then something snapped, something changed. Then you want to know that she's what I call a happy pill woman, suppressing her emotional state and pretending everything is fine and she's in control. So that then when the hormonal changes of perimenopause and menopause came along, she was highly emotionally dysregulated in herself, creating a more extreme experience of perimenopause or menopause. And so she wasn't dealing with her emotional state. She was good at keeping a cap on it and stuffing it down because we're pain avoiders. We don't want to face the challenges and adversities in life that create emotional disruption and deal with it and move through it. So we stuff it down. So our emotional state isn't in control in that experience. So then perimenopause or menopause comes along and we have an extreme experience of it because of our internal emotional state that creates a more dysregulated hormonal state. It's flipped. It's not our hormones driving our emotions. It's our emotions driving our hormones. And we do go through hormonal changes in perimenopause and menopause. But the degree of which it affects us in our daily lives is determined by our internal emotional state. I hope that was insightful and helpful. I was excited to talk about that. And where I want to go next, the final part of our show, 5 shady excuses women use to get divorced. So again, this article from the New York Post, middle-aged women are leaving marriages due to menopause. That article is just giving women permission to leave their marriage using perimenopause or menopause as an excuse. And the core issue in it is an entitlement. That as women, we feel entitled. We do not have the character or integrity to commit to our vows and feel that our marriages are disposable. We had no emotional investment or in no understanding that we were making a commitment and taking vows. So we find shady excuses to use to leave our marriages, whereas a good man, unless things have gone too far and he's just given up, a good man is so devoted and committed to seeing his marriage through and takes his vows very seriously. When I speak with good men, or they write in of just atrocious scenarios in their marriages with their wives, atrocious behavior on their wife's part. And all they're wanting, how do I fix this? How do I get her to open up and see what's happening so she can be happy and our marriage can work? I'm committed. Leaving is not an option. That is the majority of the men that I speak to. They take their vows seriously. They have high moral values and integrity. And it's just, divorce isn't an option. It takes a lot for a good man to decide to leave and get a divorce, which is at times the best decision for him. But only he can know that. But again, as women, we feel no sense of commitment and to fight and do everything we can to make our marriage work. We will leave on a whim. So 5 shady excuses women use to get divorced. Number 1, what we've been talking about today, is we will use perimenopause or menopause as an excuse to leave the divorce. I've changed. My perspective has changed. The article says women gain clarity in perimenopause or menopause that lets them know it's time to leave and have a fresh lease on life. And some women are even waiting for that period of time to be able to use it as the excuse why they are leaving. Number 2, second shady excuse women use to get divorced: infidelity. Their husband steps outside the marriage, and there is their golden ticket to get a divorce. And the truth is, and what I talk about, is that good men are pushed through the withholding of sex, through the withholding of love, to step outside their morals and characters and go outside the marriage. Doesn't make it okay or appropriate, but it gives an understanding as to why some good men are vulnerable when they're being withheld sex and love, to step outside their marriage and go outside their character of something they would never do. And infidelity is involved. As women, we will use it against a man forever. We will never forgive him. And we will never take responsibility for our part and role in how we pushed a good man to go outside the marriage. And sadly, women who want out of their marriage will purposely push a good man to cheat so that they have the excuse to leave, because there's no other good reason to leave, and they need that to happen to have their out, which is very shady. I have a whole episode on this, why good men cheat, under the live tab of the channel, so you can go watch that to learn more. The third shady excuse women use to get divorced: loss of financial security. So their husband loses their job, or loses a business, or a business goes under. They hit some kind of financial hardship or make a financial mistake, and a woman will turn on them and use it as her excuse to leave, and feels entitled in that. It's another reason of why we get married for the wrong reasons. A reason that many women get married is to be taken care of financially. So when that's not there, it can become another shady reason or excuse that we will use to leave a marriage. Number 4, the fourth shady reason or excuse a woman will use to get divorced: I need to find myself. So a woman will say things like, it's not you. It's me. I just never got married too young. Or you're the only man that I've ever been with. I was never by myself. And I just need time to figure out who I am and understand myself and get to know myself. And in order to do that, I need to leave the marriage. Again, it shows an entitlement of these are the things we should have thought about before we made a commitment and vow till death do us part. But that's a very, very common reason that women leave. I have an episode on that as well under the live tab. I think it's called When Your Wife Says She Needs to Find Herself. So you can go learn more about that shady excuse there. And then the fifth shady excuse women use to get divorced. Number 5, the entitlement we have to find happiness in a man who will give us the experience of love that we feel we are no longer getting from our husbands. So women will use, I'm just not happy, and I need to go find my happiness, which is code that I need to go find my happiness with the next man who I think is going to fill the emptiness I feel inside of me with the romantic feelings of love, because you are not doing it for me anymore. So through our emasculation and pushing our husbands away, a good man will eventually withdraw, become cold and distant in the relationship. And then a woman uses that to point her finger out and say, you don't love me anymore, you're withdrawn, you're disconnected, you're not in this anymore, and I want to be with someone who loves me. So we create the scenario through how we're pushing a good man away. We push them away, and then I need to go find my happiness because you're not excuse me, because you're not showing me that love. And I want that love. The perfect example of this, pardon me, perfect example of this is Tom Brady and Giselle. She felt entitled. She wasn't happy anymore, and used the story and excuse of Tom Brady continuing to play football and not being around to go outside the marriage and find the next man that she thought was going to make her happy. So that's a really good example. So those are the 5 shady excuses women use to get divorced. So let's talk a little bit about the solution. Talk to women first. It's just a choice. It's just a choice that we have to live in camp victim or camp take responsibility. That in camp victim, we want to find reasons and excuses to blame our husbands, to blame the marriage for our unhappiness, and pull any excuse we can out of our big old bag of excuses of why we want to leave a marriage. And you have to know wherever you go, there you are. It's not going to make you happy. You might temporarily feel some relief from your miserableness, but I promise you, in a matter of time, it's going to come creeping back in. So it's making a choice to live in camp take responsibility that you are the source of your unhappiness in a marriage to a good man. It's not your husband. It's not saying that he's perfect or doesn't have issues, but a good man is the first one to want to take responsibility and fix and resolve the issues. So you have to have the clarity to know that you're the source of your unhappiness, and that's a good thing, because it means then you can be the source of your happiness, and build your character and integrity to recognize that you made vows, you made a commitment, and that leaving your marriage isn't going to make you happy. What's going to make you happy is stepping up in a camp take responsibility. What do I need to do to make myself happy? And put myself first to follow through with the word and commitment I made and make it the best it can be. And when you're with a good man and you re-engage in that way and things are not too far gone, he's going to be right there waiting for you and just excited to move forward. And then for the women who, and I would be this woman too, without this path. But the women who want to use perimenopause or menopause as an excuse, to recognize it's in your control, that by learning to regulate your emotional state, you will have a very, very mild experience of perimenopause or menopause. And if you hate that I said that and you are triggered, that's what lets you know that there's truth to it. And it confirms you're looking for an excuse. You're looking for a reason to be emotionally erratic and physically and mentally and emotionally disrupted in your life. So you have the perfect excuse out. So you have to decide, I don't want to be that kind of woman. I don't want to use it as an excuse. So that you live and can't take responsibility and say, great, I get to be in control of this and my experience of it. Sign me up. So if you want that experience of living in camp, take responsibility and being happy in yourself so you don't blow up your marriage and crush a good man and leave for a really shady reason, then the link to my happiness course is in the description below. You can learn more about it and take the next steps to enroll. For the good men listening, if your wife has used or did use one of these shady excuses to leave you and you're a good man, it wasn't you. She was just living in camp victim, looking for a way out, and twisted and wove her story of how you were the problem. And you then used the next thing she could use, whether that was menopause or I need to find myself or financial hardship, etc., to leave. And if she's trying to leave you, and use one of these excuses, you want to build the courage and confidence in yourself to say, okay, go ahead. Don't come back. And send her on her way, because she's living in camp victim and there's nothing you're going to do that's going to make her happy or change things. And the best thing you can do is take away that leverage from her when she threatens divorce and is using one of these excuses, or I'm sure there's a lot of excuses I missed, share in the comments. The excuses, the shady excuses you've heard from women to get a divorce. But you want to take away the leverage. Good men are terrified of the threat of divorce because they've built their whole life around their marriage and their commitment in their marriage. So you want to build the courage, the confidence, the strength in yourself to say, go ahead. That's what you feel you need to do. Go ahead. And she'll either leave or she'll stop using divorce as a threat because she realizes it doesn't work on you and it's not pulling any weight. So for good men who want to heal and understand the reality of their marriage, if your wife has left you, or you want to build your strength and confidence to have the courage to say, go ahead, leave, then the link to my men's marriage course is in the description below, where you can learn more about it and take the steps to enroll. And then also just a reminder, don't be fooled by your wife's story of perimenopause or menopause. She's just using it as an excuse to check out, be on poor behavior, and not have a level of commitment to be her best in the marriage. There's nothing you can do to change that. But knowing that and staying in that reality, you can have empathy for her, recognizing she's just living in camp victim, but not be sucked into the crazy making and the gaslighting of how she's making you feel, or that she needs you to understand what she's going through and support her through it. And if you don't, then that's the reason she's so upset with you and so unhappy. Don't fall for that gaslighting. And ladies, we're perfectly capable of supporting ourselves through perimenopause and menopause to be our best, and can feel empowered in that, and don't need our husbands to understand. We need to understand it. When we understand it and support ourselves, then it's okay that our husbands don't understand, because they're not having that experience. So don't put that burden and responsibility on them. You take on, you carry the mantle of your experience of perimenopause or menopause. You will feel good about yourself and not burden your husband, that he's supposed to support you and understand it with you. Again, we need to understand it for ourselves and support ourselves. And if we need other support, find female support we need through it, but not put that responsibility on our husbands as a man. So that's the show today. Thank you all so much for joining me. Please consider subscribing. If you're not, please like the video if you haven't already, and share it with anyone you know that it might help. I'll have the podcast version of this up this coming Wednesday. That's when you can always expect the podcast episode is on Wednesdays of the previous Saturday's show. So I'm going to hop over to the comments and then answer some questions that Phil will send my way. All right. Let's see. Things are catching up here. Thank you, Burned Oils, for clicking the thumbs up. Phil's calling last call for today's questions. Thank you, Ben, for your comment. As always, great show. And for Keith, thank you, Karen. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. Monica, amazing. A lot to learn, as always. Good for you, Monica. You're a brave, courageous woman, and the type of woman that I am speaking to, who wants to learn these things and wants to be the best. So kudos to you for showing up each week and joining in and participating in the chat and being here to grow and learn. Well, I might have had some harsh truths for the women today. It is always coming from a place of wanting to empower us and show us a different way that we haven't been taught and that we just didn't know any better. Phil, thank you as always for your incredible generosity. Thank you for the joke. Karen, what's the difference between a vitamin and a hormone? Answer, you can't hear a vitamin. Very good. Let's see. Oh, good. Thank you, James, so much for your generosity. Your message for good men is ringing out loud. That's great. Oaths of women I prescribe on water from Socrates. That's wonderful. Yeah, really good theory. We have a similar theory to Master 12. Women evolved to be dependent on male resources to the point that now they're entitled, and concepts like earn and fair are anathematic to them. Great point. Great point. Thank you all so much for your insights, wisdom, and contributions to the channel. I appreciate it so much. So I'm going to take a second and go over to my email and see any questions, comments that Phil has sent over. There we go. All right. Thank you, FB. Says, thank you for everything you are doing for the society to keep going forward. I appreciate that very much. Yeah, good for you, Major Sam. Okay, thanks so much, Karen, for the truth bomb. You're welcome. I'm again being reminded that I married an unhappy woman and I can't make her happy. Good for you. It's the most important thing for a good man to know, that, and if he's choosing to stay married, just to accept that, focus on the good things, and navigate it knowing you can't make her happy. And if she goes through periods of seeming happy, you ride the wave, but no, it's coming later, so you don't fall for the trap of what do I need to keep up to keep making her happy, or what else can I do? Good men have to retire from making their wives happy so that they can stay objective. And it doesn't mean a good man stops doing things he wants to do for his wife that are just an expression of him as a good man that make him feel good, but to retire from doing things that he thinks will move the dial, because it never will. And a woman will actually resent you and become more unhappy because she recognizes that it's her, somewhere in her. She recognizes it's her because no matter what you do, she is still unhappy. So she actually resents it. She also knows that she's treating you poorly. So when you do things to try to make her happy, she can't understand, why is he still doing nice things for me when I'm so terrible? And she becomes resentful. It makes things worse. Yeah, great question, UK Fred. Does the same thing happen in earlier life with the symptoms of menstruation? And I imagine you're referencing of, does the level of which our monthly cycle as women, the level of which is disruptive to our emotional and physical well-being, is it the hormones or is it the emotions? So the more emotional we are as a woman and emotionally dysregulated, the more extreme our symptoms of our monthly cycle. So the short answer in that is yes. Good for you. What Karen is just saying helps me make sense of some of what I experienced as a younger man. Good for you. Very, very happy to hear that. Chris, thanks for the question. What is your take on hypergamy? I have a whole live episode on hypergamy that you can go check out. In short, my theory is a woman is a woman is a woman, that we're not biologically wired for the next man that has the most value that we can get out of them, or picking biologically a man, or the other concepts of hypergamy, that is going to give us like genetically sound offspring. Is that no, as women, we're looking for the next thing that we think is going to make us happy or fill the deep void and emptiness we have in ourselves, and we will find any reason to leave. And it's not looking for a higher value man. So I talked much more about that in that episode on hypergamy. Mauricio, how can men combat the short-term female thinking? It's just to accept. Don't fight it, because you can't change it. We only have control to change ourselves, whether we're a man or a woman. It's accepting the reality of women and knowing that women are emotionally driven beings, that we make decisions and choices emotionally, that we interpret anything you might bring up as a concern in the marriage emotionally, and that we do not think and make choices logically. We don't, unless we create that as a value and learn the skill set to be in control of our emotional decisions and start to be logical in our lives. It's possible. But we're never going to be wired like a good man who is practical and logical and thinks linear and has solutions to the problem and doesn't make big deal out of things. So that short-term female thinking is just emotional thinking. And it's accepting and knowing that that's how a woman is wired, and that good men get caught in the trap of like, how do I present something in a certain way so that she understands it and gets the logic behind it? Because you're viewing her through your lens of practicality and logic and problem solving, thinking there's got to be a way and an avenue that I can present this to her that then she'll get it. And you have to recognize, no, it just recognize she is emotional. And so she interprets everything that you say or bring up or try to help her see through an emotional lens. And then a good man gets really frustrated, understandably, because he's just trying to think of things logically and practically. So don't combat it. Just understand and accept and try to present things logically. And if she's just determined to respond emotionally and not let it in and not consider what you're saying, then you have to, okay, she's not willing to look at herself and change. So don't beat yourself over the head trying to get through, because you can't if she doesn't want you to get through. So that's what I would say to that. All right, guys, thank you so much for the comments and questions. Just going to take one more peek, and then I'm going to wrap up for the day. And go. We're just having beautiful fall weather here in the Denver area. So, Gino, good for you. First time listening live. All great stuff. So happy to have you. Welcome here every Saturday, unless I'm away, which I try to announce the week before. But I will be here next Saturday. But every Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern time here in the States. And just thank you guys so much. Thank you, Phil. Awesome job holding down the fort today, running it solo. You're very, very, very appreciative or appreciated by me. And I know our audience and how much they enjoy you, and also Steve when he is here as moderator. So you guys just do a great job. And thank you very much. So you guys have a great rest of your weekend. I will be here next Saturday. So I look forward to seeing